quickest recording ever.
Can you send Rhodey the link to the Ideas UK session, Connor?
Yeah, no problem.
Good. Okay, so yeah, we're up to 10. We'll just give it another minute and then we'll get going. Yeah. Should we make a start? What do you think?
I think we shall. We'll a couple more hopefully will join us, but thank you to everyone who is here today to join in the conversation. As always, these knowledge nuggets are brought to you by Ideas UK and the Innovation Network, and we're delighted to have Grant share his expertise today around lean startup. So before we do start, I just wanted to share just a couple of things with you. The first is tomorrow we're going to launch 2 challenges that we would love to get your thoughts and opinions on. The first is going to be around conference this year. So Ideas UK normally always host an annual conference, and obviously for the last 2 years that's been somewhat on hold, but it's a great opportunity to bring everyone together to share experiences, and hopefully you go away with a little extra knowledge too. So conference this year is being held in November at Tewkesbury Park, and we would love to hear from you effectively on what's going to make conference special for you. So that could be topics, speakers, how we organize your time in breakout sessions, or even coffee breaks. So we just love your suggestions, ideas, etc., to ensure that this year's conference is really special and you get the most out of it. The second challenge we're also running on the website, and I will drop the details of the link to the website, is actually the Idea of the Year competition website that we're using to run these challenges. It's around KPIs for innovation managers, and we had a session actually during our virtual conference last year, and actually KPIs seem to be quite a hot topic. How do we measure what we do, both in terms of ourselves as innovation managers, but also in terms of our innovation program? So what we're asking you to do is, if you can, to share how you measure both yourself and your program, why you've chosen those particular KPIs, and what good looks like for you. And we're hoping to collate that information, but that is an open challenge, so people will be able to see and share what each other do. So again, it's another way of sharing best practice. So as I say, I will drop the link to those challenges into the chat function, but we'll certainly be launching those on email tomorrow. So do look out and please do contribute. As for today and our knowledge nuggets, I will hand over to Grant any second, but just to say we have a great program for you lined up this year. We've already had the amazing Connor take us through the tech safari, which we've had such fantastic feedback from. Grant will be superb today, as always, as I've heard him so many times talking. He's always excellent, so you're in for a treat. And then coming up, we've got innovation in practice. So we have 2 of our member organizations, John Lewis Partnership and MTR Elizabeth Line, both sharing their experiences of running a program on the 8th of March. So I think that will be a great session. Then either the April or May slot will be taken by the Empathy Lab. And there's a researcher in Cambridge University who's done a lot of work around empathy and creativity and innovation. So that should be a really interesting, different take on how to innovate effectively. And then on the 7th of June, again, we're looking more about creativity and the brain and how to develop innovative people, teams and culture. So some great topics coming up. So do put those in your diary and we will get links out to register as soon as possible. But for now, I will stop talking and hand over to Grant. So thanks, Grant.
I was going to say, I'll try to empathy, but I could just never feel it, Zina. And then we were joined by my colleague, Rhodey Fonk from the Netherlands. And Zina, imagine there was a Dutchman that had a whole 1-hour session on innovation KPIs that could be one of our knowledge nuggets. So we must slot that one in. All right. Hi, everybody. Great to be with you today. This is one of my favorite sessions. So can I ask you just in chat to let me know if anyone here has read the Lean Startup? And anyone want to unmute? Anyone done the Lean Startup? Anyone want to unmute and tell us if you loved it or hated it? Both are absolutely fine. Well, it's one of my favorite books, right? And I think it works just as well in corporate as it does in startups. And it was about Eric Ries launched a Silicon Valley startup. They built a proposition, plowed many, many millions of dollars into it. Surprise, surprise, it wasn't exactly what their users wanted, and they ran out of money. And he talks about how wasteful like organizational cultures can be, and is there a better way of building things? And I just love that, mainly because we're passionate about startups and our own startup and the lessons we use, and it works just as well in large corporates. This was the one session that we had a comment. We learned more in 4 hours than 4 years of uni innovation masters. So it really is a lovely session. I'm going to just pop share screen on. And it's worth just grabbing a pen and paper or having your mobile phone handy. We will share the recording afterwards, but there's a couple of slides that are neat just to take a photo of and print out. Yeah, there's some lovely concepts, and I'll talk you through them, and I'll highlight my favorite ones. So let's do it. Let's do it. Connor, anything coming through on chat? Anyone read the Lean Startup? Anyone enjoyed it?
No, not yet. However, if you do have any ideas on those conference and KPIs that Zena mentioned at the start, there's a link there as well.
Very cool. Thanks, Connor. Thanks, Connor. All right. Can you see my share screen okay? Looking good? All right, let's do it. Thanks, Chris. All right. So we're going to just jump into a little bit of a synopsis of the Lean Startup in about 20 minutes. So anyone recognize this guy, Paul Jacobs? Seen him before? So Paul had an idea for a startup proposition, and he was in the shower. So we've all been there. You all get those best ideas in the bath or the shower. And Paul had this epiphany for a business. So let's go and take a look what Paul was thinking. So Paul had this idea in 2007 for mobile TV on the go. Now, I can't see anyone in the audience that's younger than Connor. And it's probably for the best if we just pick on Connor because he works with us. So Connor, I want you to cast your mind back to the early 2000s. You can't, right? Because you were too young, but they were dark, dark times. There was no streaming services. There was no mobile TV on your phone. Chris and I had to rush home and pop a tape into the VCR to tape our favorite shows. They were dark, dark times, my friend. So Paul had this idea for mobile TV on the go. It was 16 channels. And the trick was with this proposition is that you had to buy that device on the right-hand side, which would set you back $250 US. So what do you think about this? Cast your mind back to a time before mobile TV on the go. It was a really, really interesting play. $250 to get you the device, and then you could watch mobile TV anywhere you went. Once you unmute or just pop on your camera and give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down, what do you think of that business idea? Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And we'd love for more of you to pop on your camera. Let us know what you're thinking. Emma's in, Lindsay's in. Chris is in. Helen, are you investing in this? Rhodey's doubling down, but he's a very aggressive angel investor. Rhodey Clarkson. Well, we'll take a look and see how Paul gets on. Now, the trick was it was going to take him $800 million US to launch this service. So let's go and take a look what happens later on. We're about to meet another startup entrepreneur, and his name is Nick Schwimmer. Now, I can't pronounce his surname. You'll forgive me, but Nick had an idea. He had an idea for an online shoe store. Now, Connor, cast your mind back to the early 2000s. Online shopping, as you know it today, didn't exist. There was no Amazon Prime. They were, again, dark, dark times. Rhodey, Chris, and I had to go to the shops to buy our shoes. Online stores were absolutely in their infancy. But Nick had a dream. He thought that people would want to buy shoes online. So rather than going to a traditional shoe store, imagine if you could just head to an online store, choose what you want and get it delivered, which for the time was a revolutionary idea. Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down of what you think about that business. Yeah, I'm seeing a couple of investors. Rhodey's non-committal. Clark, what do you think? Yeah, Chris is in. Well, let's go and take a look. Paul versus Nick. So Nick registered a site called shoesite.com. He started in 1999. And he did something interesting compared to Paul. So Paul went all in, $800 million to create this revolutionary TV on the go concept. Nick did something different. So he created a very simple website with his own money. He spent a couple of $100. And what he would do is he would go to the nearby shoe store take photos of their shoes, and he did a deal with them where every pair of shoes that he sold online, he would rush down to the mall, buy the shoes, and ship them. So what do you think of that? Drop me a note in chat. Feel free to unmute. Smart or not smart? Who wants to weigh in on that? So a couple $100 on a website. He's running down to the mall. He's probably buying those shoes at a slight loss, if not maybe neutral. So he's not making a fortune. But what do you think about that concept? Jane, why don't you? Yeah, so Jane, that's a fair one. Hard to scale. So we'll take a look at that. Emma's saying the same, hard to scale. Zena's saying low-cost pilot to test the concept, yeah. And Tim's saying smart move to trial the idea. Well, let's go and take a look, because there are some real challenges, right? Hard to scale, no real profit margin in it, but it is interesting to try out the concept. So let's go and see what happened. So what happened next? Kind of didn't go well for Paul. In 2009, only 2% of mobile phone subscribers watched TV on their mobile devices. Paul had to shut down in 2011, refunding customers a loss of $800 million US. Now, Connor, we know with your crypto portfolio, $800 million is not a lot of money to you, you know, but to Chris, Rody, Lindsay, and I, it smarts, it burns, right? So $800 million loss. Now, what happened to Nick? So Nick used that shipping business, so simple websites, buying those shoes, shipping them off. He used that to raise 1.6 million of sales or revenue. He changed shoesite.com to zappos.com. He got his first round of investment using that proof of traction. So literally $1.6 million of shoes from his simple website. In 2009, acquired by Amazon for $1.2 billion. Now, $1.2 billion is not a lot of money, but if you budget carefully, you could get by on that. So who do we think is the winner? Yeah, it's got to be Nick, right? It's got to be Nick, if only because he didn't lose $800 million US. So the trick is, it's an interesting story, but we do what Paul did every day, don't we? So in large companies, someone has an idea. If they're in a position of power, we have to commit resources. And we just commit resources and we waterfall that thing. If they're senior enough, there's no option for failure, right? You just got to commit. You have to make it work, even if it's a failure. In our own personal lives, I suspect you've done what Connor, Rody, and I have done, which is you have the idea, you throw some money at this idea and you start to build, right? And you launch this proposition that you think is the $1 million idea, but never quite gets traction. We've all been there, right? I've got many sad stories like that. So it's interesting. I think by definition, we could agree that Nick is the winner, right? Now, this is the statistic that keeps me awake at night. I would take a photograph of this if I was you. I keep this stuck on a note next to my desk. And the statistic is this: 72% of all new product propositions launched fail. So 72% of all new propositions that come to the market fail, which is a terrifying number. Startup statistics are roughly similar. So 60% of startups fail in the first 3 years. Less than 5% of startups make it to their 5th birthday. So whether it's a startup proposition, whether it's a new product proposition, 72% of all new product propositions fail. I do a lot of work in the telecoms industry since like 2007. And only about 20% of all the propositions that telco companies create ever make any real money. So you just think of the staggering waste of resources and money. 80% of their product proposition never makes money. And it's a terrifying concept. So I really love this concept of how much opportunity is hidden in that failure. So if we could just do a little bit better, we don't need to revolutionize this. If we could just improve our success rate by a couple of %, it's a huge, huge value in money. So let's go and take a look. I often put this slide in. We love to be your idea killer, because either at work or in your personal life with a startup, you've fallen in love with an idea. Now, the trick is you can't fall in love with your first idea. You've got to fall in love with your user pain. So that statistic always reminds me, and Connor and Rody often have to remind me of this, even though it's stuck up next to my desk. There's a 72% chance that there's a fatal flaw with whatever concept you're working on now. So that could be an innovation proposition in your business. It could be a new revenue stream. chances are, statistically, there's a 72% chance that there's a fatal flaw in that current proposition. So whatever you're currently committing money, time, and energy to has probably got a fatal flaw. The numbers don't lie. Now, that's an incredibly painful realization, isn't it? Because we've fallen in love with this thing. We're excited about it. The team's excited. The business is excited. And we're probably building already. But perhaps there's a better way. And I think the Lean Startup gives us some tips for that better way. So the number one reason startups fail, and that we think it's the same for propositions across corporates, across innovation, is no market need. We built something that the user never really needed, wanted, or could pay for. But the trick is that this is an avoidable problem. We can find a way through this. So very quickly, I'm going to play this video for you. It's called the Mum Test. If you've seen it, it's a superb video. It's a little bit long, but I just love to share it because it's one of those videos that, again, it's worth sharing. It's worth just keeping in your bookmarks. So we're going to share that, and I'll pop the link to it as well so you can save it. I just want to reshare my screen just to make sure that I included audio. So forgive me. Let me just do that. Screen to share audio. Connor, give me a thumbs up if that audio plays. And it's all about how we fool ourselves without getting proper user feedback. All right, stand by, here it comes.
We're told, don't ask your mum if your business idea is a good one. She'll just say yes. Because she loves you, of course. The Mum Test is a set of simple rules for crafting good questions that even your mum can't lie to you about. Let's have 2 conversations and see what we can learn. Mum, I've got a business idea. Can I tell you about it? Of course, dear. You like your iPad, right? Do you use it a lot? Yes. OK. So would you ever buy an app which was like a cookbook for your iPad? Me. And it only costs £20. That's cheaper than your hardbacks on the shelf. Well, and you can share recipes with your friends. And there's an iPhone app which is your shopping list. And videos of that celebrity chef you love. Yes, dear. That sounds amazing. £20 is fine. Will it have pictures of the recipes? Yes, definitely. Thanks, Mum. I'm going to quit my job and put all my savings into my new startup. Won't you have some lasagna? That conversation led us down the garden path. The Mum Test is about talking to your customers about their life, not your idea. It's about discussing specifics in the past instead of generics or opinions about the future. It's about talking less and listening more. Let's do it again right this time. Hey, Mum, how's the new iPad? Oh, I love it. I use it every day. What do you usually do on it? Oh, you know, read the news, play Sudoku, catch up with my friends. What's the last thing you did on it? Well, Dad and I are off on holiday. I was looking where to stay. Did you use an app for that? No, I just used Google. What app should I use? How did you find out about the other apps you have? The Sunday paper has a section on the apps of the week. Makes sense. By the way, I saw a couple of new cookbooks on the shelf. Where did those come from? Oh, they're one of those things you just end up getting at Christmas. I think Doreen gave me that one. Haven't even opened it. As if I need another lasagna recipe at my age. Time to refine my idea. We discovered many insights in that conversation to help us adjust our idea. It just goes to show, if you can get useful business information from Mum, you can get it from anyone. The Mum Test.
So we love that video. I know it's a long one, but I popped it in because I just love sharing it. So please do grab the Mum Test video, share it far and wide. It's a lovely one. And then I always put in this slide, which is worth just snapping a quick picture of. If you want the original, I'll pop it into chat. But it's the 10 type of lean startup pivots, and it's quite a sobering realization. If you're interested, just ping us and we'll share it with you. But there's 10 different areas where you can iterate in your concept. So it explains why there's a 72% chance there's a fatal flaw. There's so many different things that you can do to adapt an idea, a proposition, an innovation solution. And just one of these could really unlock the exponential value in it. So that's one we love to share. And the Lean Startup is the book where all of this comes from. So there's 4 key principles on the Lean Startup. The first one is don't fall in love with your first idea, which is incredibly tough to do. So don't fall in love with that first idea. Fall in love with your user pain. The next one is don't fall into the build trap, and we'll talk about that. So be like Nick. Commit resources as that risk and uncertainty decreases. And then finally, the great news is that none of this is smoke and mirrors. It's all a scientific approach that anyone can use to reduce that risk and unlock the value in their idea. So let me ask you to cast your mind back. Let's see if anyone remembers these. Out of Silicon Valley, there was an app called Bourbon, and Bourbon would let people check in at pubs and clubs, hang out with friends, and post pictures online. Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Do you think it made money? What do you think of Bourbon? Chris is not convinced. Rhodey's not on board. Anyone else? No, not feeling it. It didn't get traction. They found that people didn't want to check in, share their location. But what they did notice is that people loved the ease of the picture sharing function. So within this app, people loved the ease and the ability to share pictures. And today, that app is on your mobile phone as, come on, unmute or tell me in chat. Today, that app is on your mobile phone as, yeah, absolutely, Dino, it's Instagram. And then I love that one. Angry Birds is an interesting one, Connor. We'll pick that up later. Lindsay, I love that comment. So whenever someone comes with an idea, I always respond with, what's the problem you're trying to solve? That's a great mantra. So let's go and take a look. And so for me, it's a lovely example of how a failed proposition, just with a little bit of iteration, suddenly unlocked a huge value. I forget how much Instagram was acquired for, but many, many billions. The next one was an app called My Status, also out of Silicon Valley, and it was designed specifically for startup entrepreneurs, programmers, so that you could let your colleagues know what you were doing and if it was okay to call you. It didn't get much traction, but what people noticed is there was a customized field that people started to use to send messages to their friends at little or no cost. Now, Connor, this was in the dark days when Chris, Rhodey, and I used to pay like 50p, maybe more, to send a text message. It was a dark, expensive time. You don't know our pain, you truly don't. And they noticed that people like to use the customizable field of the My Status app to send messages to their friends. So they were able to pivot. No one used the functions of the original status messages, and they pivoted in today an app that's on your mobile phone as, Dino, you got it? No, not Tinder. Keep trying, Connor. Absolutely, Lindsay. WhatsApp. So 16 billion acquisition, all from a failed app called My Status. The next one we love was a video game called Glitch. Now, the entrepreneurs behind the startup Glitch came up with the concept of a video game that rewarded you for doing good, for being nice to people. What do you think of that proposition? Do you think people wanted to play a video game that encouraged you to be nice and kind and to make the world a better place? How do you think? Rhodey's not convinced. Do you think it made any money? Do you think Glitch was successful? Give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs down. Emma's not convinced. Yeah, Jane, Chris, Zena, you're right. But what they did notice is that as part of building the Glitch, they created a messaging platform for their team that let them become more productive by reducing their need for email. So their programmers were constantly interrupted by email, and they had created a messaging platform to reduce the impact and the inefficiencies of email. And today, that app is probably on your mobile phone as, this is a tougher one, this is a tougher one. No, not Candy Crush, Connor, but keep trying. Zena, have you got any interns for us? We might have a job opening coming up soon. No.
I think Chris got it before me.
Yeah.
Slack.
Yeah, it's absolutely. Chris, it's Slack. So all examples of how unsuccessful propositions with little bits of pivoting, little bits of experiment, without wasting a lot of money, hopefully, could get you to that $1 million or $1 billion in some cases proposition. So we love this mantra at the Innovation Network, which says, don't fall in love with your first idea, fall in love with the problem instead, fall in love with your user pain. And that works in corporate, in innovation, in startup, absolutely fall in love with your user pain. The next one is don't fall in love with the build trap, or don't fall into the build trap. And the traditional strategy, which we've all done, is we get that idea, we commit resources, and we start building. But actually, the best way to do it is to get that idea, put it down on paper, and lots of stuff to do, a business model canvas, lean startup. Am I the only one? What do we do to test this? Will customers buy it and use it? Can we get people to properly commit to it? And then we either get that magic word, traction, or we don't get traction and we have to pivot. We need to do a further experiment and keep looking until we find something that users desperately want, need, and can pay for. So it's beautifully simple, but really, really powerful and effective. Another story that I absolutely love is the story of TransferWise. Today, it's just called Wise. In 2011, two friends from Estonia were living in London and needed to send money home. Now, it's really expensive and really a long process to transfer money internationally. So they had the idea for quick, inexpensive money transfer, and they were looking for $1 million to launch that fund. Now, no one would fund them. They couldn't get the $1 million. So what they did is they created this little mock-up landing page where you could come onto a website, transfer money. Now, kids, don't try this at home. Don't do this today. I'm pretty sure it would be illegal with the Financial Services Commission. But they would take the sort of fake website, and in the evening at their kitchen table, they would transfer those payments. And they processed £1 million worth of payments. And they noticed that 70% of their users came back and they transferred again. They used that proof of traction to raise their first round of funding in 2012, $1.3 million. Today, that startup is worth in excess of €6 billion. It's Europe's most successful fintech startup, TransferWise, which today is known as Wise. All from two friends at a kitchen table in London, a little experiment. Don't try that experiment, but there are others. But I just love the concept of it. So absolutely, invest as the risk decreases. So don't fall into the build trap. We want to look for the cheapest, quickest way to validate these ideas. And then Connor and Zena, I've forgotten how long the session is. Have we got 40 minutes or have we got the full hour?
It's about 45 minutes.
Okay, cool. So that tells me how much I can ramble on for. So we love the slide which says commit resources as your uncertainty decreases. So if you think about Nick invested that $800 million right at the front. Sorry, Paul invested the $800 million. Nick invested as the uncertainty decreased. And it's just such a lovely concept. There's a book called Many Small Bets, The Lean Startup. There's lots of theory around this. But that's how we've started to run our business is each week, what's the greatest value we could experiment on? What experiment could we do this week with a clear, tangible outcome? So we say commit resources as your uncertainty decreases. Anyone recognize this guy? Connor would say that's a photo of me before that I did the Body for Life gym program. It's not. It's a young man named Will Su. Will Su was an investment banker, worked in Canary Wharf. If you've ever been down to Canary Wharf, you'll know it's an awful place to get food in the evenings. The Tesco's is awful by 9 p.m. It's a mess of prawn sandwiches, and it's absolutely, Tim, Deliveroo is the concept. So Will Su thought that there must be a better way for people to get food. So he was a bit burnt out, went back to the US, went to business school, came back to London, and he created this proposition where someone could deliver food to you on a bike. You used an app to order it, and you could see things on the app like star ratings of the restaurants, the quality of the food, easily access the menu, and you could spot, most importantly, when your meal was getting delivered. So you knew exactly when your food was coming. He launched Deliveroo, and what I love about Deliveroo is they scaled for their first 2.5 years, neighborhood by neighborhood with their own money. So no giant startup capital, they did it themselves, and they did it with little experiments, neighborhood by neighborhood. Acquired by Amazon for many, many billions, I think. Was it just at the end of sometime last year, I think. So I'm just going to skip through these. This is one of our favorite ones. We had a student at one of the universities that was convinced that waffle on a stick was a multi-billion-dollar dessert proposition in London. Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Well, it depends on how much Connor and I are open to waffles, Zena. But again, what's the lean startup methodology? What would be the best way to test waffle on a stick? Yeah, so Chris, you're right. Maybe get a stand at a farmer's market for 50 quid. It's got to be an experiment where someone has to give you money. So it can't be free samples. It can't be a taste test. It's got to be something where someone commits and gives you money. But there were many ways that he could do it. He did not choose to do that. He chose to open a store. That store went horribly bankrupt. And then he went and did the same thing again with Argentinian beef. But that is another story. So the moral is, you can apply a scientific approach to entrepreneurship and innovation by looking for evidence in the market and doing these experiments all the time. I've got one more to show you very quickly. So a key question to ask is, what's the cheapest, fastest way we can figure out whether customers would buy or use our solution? And I wanted to show you this experiment from Dropbox. So very quickly, let me show you that. So this is an interesting one, Connor. Also back in the early 2000s, there was no seamless cloud backup. Now, Zena, Chris, Rody, and I, when we went to university, we had memory sticks, and we had several on a necklace around our necks. We had a memory stick for music. We had a memory stick for TV shows. We had a memory stick for your thesis, all your different subjects. They were dark times, kind of. Sometimes you'd lose a memory stick, it would corrupt, and you'd lose all your work. It was awful. Now, Dropbox knew there had to be a better way. So they created this concept for a synchronized cloud document backup. They went around touting for finance. No one would invest in it. So they came up with a landing page. So they created a landing page. They created a video. And all you needed to do is to pre-register your interest after watching the video. So I'm going to just play it for you very quick, and then we'll do a little bit of a wrap-up. So let's go and take a look at what Dropbox did.
You've been there. You're about to buy lunch and realize your wallet is in your other pants. Or maybe you left your keys at home. The problem is organization. You need one place for everything, like a magic pocket. Putting something in the magic pocket means it's always there, no matter what you wear or where you are. The same thing is true for computers. If you have more than one, keeping track of all of your files can be a pain. Solving this problem is one of the big ideas behind Dropbox. It's like a magic pocket, a single, secure place for all of your stuff. Let's meet Josh, who is preparing for a big trip to Africa. Right now, all of his trip info is spread across his laptop, desktop, and phone. He needs to consolidate it all and is tired of having to email files to himself or move them around with a USB drive. Then he found Dropbox, which creates a new kind of folder on his computers. These folders work hard to be exactly alike, even across Macs and PCs. By adding his itinerary to his laptop Dropbox, he can be sure the same file will show up in his desktop Dropbox and even on his phone. The same thing happens when he saves a document in a Dropbox folder. The document gets updated across all of his Dropboxes. But it's not just his computers. The Dropbox website also works to be exactly like his other Dropboxes. Anything he puts in Dropbox is available on the website automatically. This way, if his Jeep takes a dive and his computer is ruined, he can still get to his files on the Dropbox website, where they're always backed up. As it turns out, Josh's Safari was a success, and his laptop made it home with lots of videos and photos to share. Instead of emailing everything, he just shared a Dropbox folder with his mom, so she could get copies of photos she wants to frame. Because it worked so well for travel, Josh made Dropbox the home for all of his stuff, so it's accessible anytime, wherever he goes. Whether you're traveling the world, running a business, or simply organizing your life, Dropbox means you can stop worrying about managing files and backups and get on with your next adventure. You can download Dropbox now at getdropbox.com.
That was an interesting one. 75,000 people downloaded that app, and that's what Dropbox used to secure their first bit of investment funding. Chris says the memories of backing up my computer every Friday. Yeah, they were tough, Chris. They were tough. Very, very tough. Right. So tell me what was interesting about that video. What did you like about it? What was interesting? Anyone want to unmute and tell me what was interesting? Because there's some quite controversial things about a proposition for quite a high-tech solution, but there were some very clever things. Who wants to weigh in and tell me what was interesting about that? I'll tell you what I find interesting. The first one is, so it really nailed the beauty of the proposition. So it made the proposition that was quite complex really easily understandable, and it captured you by the heartstrings, right? It beautifully illustrated the user pain. It was a real way to test user need, right? Because they beautifully articulated the pain, the problem, and how their solution would do it. Did you also notice how it was a fairly low-tech video for a high-tech solution? So that's something that students from an art college could mock up for you in a couple of hours. It was hand-drawn stick figures, beautifully done, but very quick, inexpensive, and effective. So I love that as a test. 75,000 people went and entered their email address, and that was their first proof of traction. So there's many different types of experiments you could do. Lots of good stuff in the Lean Startup book, but these are the principles. Don't fall in love with your first idea. We say fall in love with your user pain, fall in love with your user's problem. Don't fall into the build trap. Commit resources as the uncertainty decreases. And the good news is all of this is a scientific approach.
It looks like we're having some connection issues with Grant, no worries. So what we'll do in this little intermission is we will give away a free seat. So what we've got is we've put you all onto a wheel, and we're going to give you a free seat to one of our events.
Yeah, so hold on, you haven't told them what it is yet. You haven't told them what it is. So we're so excited.
So I'll tell you what it is. What it is we've got a effective hybrid collaboration little session for you. So what we do on the session is a 3-hour session. We show you all of these tools for collaborating in a hybrid team. So you can run a really efficient team. Half in the office, half of them at home, using some neat tech and some really good methodology. So we've had really good reviews so far. So let's spin the wheel and see who gets to come to our event in London. So we've got a wheel for you here. So we're going to spin this wheel and see who wins it. Abia, are you there? No problem. So
hi, I'm here.
Yeah, so congratulations, Bea. You get the free seat. So if you want to hand Zena your email, I'm sure Zena does have your email. We'll get in contact with you.
Yeah, sure.
No problem. Brilliant. And do we have Grant? Yeah, Lindsay, it's a great wheel. So it was actually reviewed in my tech tools last week. It's just called tools/unite.com, and you've got a free wheel which you can spin, and it's really good for making things more collaborative online. And we've got Grant back.
He's back, and that's lesson number 17 out of our effective hybrid collaboration course, which is always have a backup internet connection. So if your internet goes down for some reason, you got a backup. You can't keep a good man down. So how far do we get, Conrad?
You did it on purpose. You did it on purpose.
Yeah. The $1 million idea is this. Yeah, so we're so excited to host a whole lot of international visitors at a beautiful venue overlooking the Tower of London in June. It's our summer 1-week innovation program, and we'd love to give away a seat today. Connor, have we got the mystery wheel? We're going to do a mystery wheel.
We've already spun it, Grant.
You've already done it. Who won?
Congratulations, Abia.
Oh, lovely. Congrats. Yeah, so we're so excited about that. I think, Zena, we might have a minute or two for questions on Lean Startup. We've got Rody, our co-founder, here today. Connor can give us some perspective post-2015. So if anyone's got any questions and answers on Lean Startup, but it's really worth the audio book. It's really worth a read. And then he has done another book called The Startup Way, which is really interesting about corporate innovation. So also one of my favorites. Cool. So yeah, Lindsay, you got a comment?
Yeah, who's the author? I'm ready for a new book.
I've
just finished my What Doesn't Kill Us around post-traumatic growth. So Eric Ries, excellent.
Yeah, it's definitely it's one of my favorites, right? So top of the old bookshelf. So you'll have some fun with that. The only problem is it keeps you awake at night, Lindsay. And once you do it, you just think of experiments constantly. Anyone else got any questions or comments? We've got a couple of minutes. Good. And that, my friends, with that, yeah, so sorry for the internet drop off, but Chris, you got a comment? Give us that one, Chris.
Yeah, I'm just really interested in your slide about why things fail because there's no market need. I work a lot around public sector, and the contrast there is that things get done where there is literally no market need. That is what service is, the kind of contrast between what service users or what customers want, and see so much stuff that's put together that they do things that people don't want.
But Chris, it's totally true. Whether it's public sector, startups, corporates, yeah, and just a massive waste of resources. So I think, yeah, even in the public sector, that experiment culture, very small pilot, low risk, inexpensive, test whether there's really traction. It's such a powerful concept. That's a great comment, Chris. And Clark, did you have a comment?
Sorry, I'm in the NHS, and I think we often don't understand who the user is in it, and it's actually the manager, divisional manager, who's making calls on things, and it's not the clinicians / nurses / patients that are getting to make their voices being heard.
Oh, Clark, that's a great comment. And what I often think is it's really interesting to do experiments with many different stakeholders, and increasingly in a sort of non-profit type area. You'll have a funder, you might have a user, you'll have other players in the ecosystem. And so sometimes we build a proposition that the end user really desperately needs, but there's another fatal flaw amongst another stakeholders. So that's a great comment.
Maybe I can tap into what Chris
Please,
just
mentioned.
Ready, Grant. It reminded me, I put the link in the chat, it reminded me of a video, Digital Government, Not Complicated, Just Hard. And that's a great story. I don't know if you know it, but it's a great story about a guy who's working for the UK government and tries to improve the 25 most important services of the UK government. And they do it also they call it digital service design, but it's all based on similar principles as Grant just mentioned. So if you want to have a nice video with a good story, could be definitely one to watch.
Thank you, Reddy. Yeah, that's a lovely one. Good. And that, my friend, is that. So back to you, Zena.
So thank you so much for that session today, Grant. I love the stories as well. It's so interesting to hear those that succeeded and those that failed, and kind of a bit of an explanation as to why. So really appreciate you sharing those stories today, because I always think it's so much better when you're learning a new concept to learn it through kind of what other people have done as well. So thank you for that. And thank you to all of you who joined and hopefully enjoyed that conversation. We will send that video out, and feel free to forward that video onto your network as well, because the more that watch, the merrier, really. So hopefully you'll join us again in March, where, as I say, we've got the John Lewis Partnership and MTR Elizabeth Line, so a train company, sharing their experiences of running an innovation programme. So I think that should be an interesting one too, and we're more than happy for you to have your experiences. Roddy, was that a hand up there I saw? No, you were just holding your finger in the air. So on that note, I will say thank you. Thank you to the Innovation Network, and look forward to seeing you next month. Take care. Bye. Have a good day.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Bye-bye.